A big applause, please, for Ross.
So my name is Ross. I'm the Managing Director of Type A Media. We're kind of known in the industry for doing 4-day work weeks. Because we do 4-day work weeks, then we need to kind of find a lot of kind of efficiencies and kind of start automating a lot of our processes. So let's get into how we do that for our week. So quick caveat about today's talk. It's in this great tweet by a guy, and he said, if it's in Python, it's machine learning. If it's in a deck, it's probably AI, which is being facetious. He's saying that it's not actually AI, it's machine learning and natural language processing. And if I was actually to rename the talk, it would be using natural language processing and machine learning to extract entities, classify content, craft better pitches to programmatically reach out to journalists at scale. However, that's a bit of a mouthful, so we'll just stick to using AI to make friends with journalists. So, Type A Media have grown quite a lot in the last couple of years. I've interviewed about 42 PR people and I've hired about 10 of them. And it's gotten to a place where I've got a lot of opinions about the PR industry as a whole. The biggest one is, I think PR people are kind of full of shit to a degree. Is there any PR people in the room? Most of the room. Fuck, okay, sorry. No, you're good shit, no bad shit. That's the PR response to that one. And I'll tell you why. I never hear this in an interview. So no one will ever come up to me and say, I can get you results regardless of the vertical I'm working in. Never happens. But what they do say is get great level with contacts and the journalists that I know I've got great relationships with. That's all they say, every single one of them. But we're link builders. We're not really PR. Does anyone say that they're a link builder and they're not a PR? One. Thank you for that. We're a dying breed and it's kind of sad. But let's look at it from a PR point of view, right? So we take your 50 contacts you've got amazing relationships with, and let's say we pitch every single one of them, and all of them come back and say, we love you, you're amazing, have the link. And this is the BBC, the Wall Street Journal, the Guardian. What do we do now? We've just burned your entire list. That's your entire life's work and all your contacts. Month 2, we've got another campaign to run, so that's kind of useless. I really don't think that traditional PR is actually set up for SEO and link building. I don't even think digital PR is really set up for it either. Here's why. So Gorkana is a media database which essentially gives you pitch preferences for journalists, but it also gives you the updates of their jobs that they're kind of moving to week to week. In a year, there's about 5,000 moves just in the UK alone. And what we're seeing is more and more people are going freelance and they're working multiple beats. When we say multiple beats, we mean perhaps you started as a fashion journalist and now, because you're freelance and you want to broaden your scope, you're going into lifestyle and you speak about fashion, travel, food, etc. Also, I was looking at a couple of journalists on the Metro. Anyone here work for the Metro? Good. They're more topical copywriters than they are journalists at the Metro. So I was literally looking at this woman's page and she was like, what's happening on Corrie this week? And it's top 10 ways to do home beer brewing, and it's the political situation in the Gaza Strip. And I'm like, that's quite a broad amount of copywriting they're doing. They're not really journalists as such. One of them actually came back to us, so we gave him some data and we gave him a press release and we were all ready to go, and I sent him a follow-up. And he said, I'm not here to do your job for you, write me the article. This is an editor of a mainstream magazine. I'm like, the PRs don't write the news, you write the news? But I thought that was really weird. But we hire journalists and turn them into PRs, and when they come in and talk to us, they say yeah man, I used to do 6 to 10 articles on a daily basis. And I'd also get pitched about 100 times every single week. These aren't editors, by the way, these are just junior writers at these places. So the biggest complaint that we had was all these pitches that we're getting, none of them fit our beat. And their beat is what the topic is that they actually talk about. But with all this change, it's actually pretty much impossible to get their beat right the first time round. So there's tools like Gorkana, which obviously try and bridge the gap, but this is what Gorkana looks like. It's a time warp to 1990, it's absolutely disgusting. So we've got here 25,000 journalists and consumer in the UK alone, and we need to deep dive into that to find the perfect one for our press release to hit the right beat. Even if we drill into that, we look at fashion, there's still 4,000 people that work in consumer fashion in the UK. If I had to drill down into them, you've got fashion, you're like, was that male fashion, female fashion, okay. Is it then high street, is it runway, what is it? And then we get into that, and then we get age groups. To actually find the right person is absolutely brutal, it's incredibly difficult. So we've got a big problem. Relationship depth, don't have it. We can't really do outreach at scale, and we don't have good pitch accuracy. Welcome to typing video. So we were kind of in a room with everyone in the company, and we're kind of racking our brains. We've got our data scientists, we've got our developers, we've got our PRs, and we're like, there must be an easy solution to matching this sort of stuff. So Jack, our data scientist, pipes up and he's like, I've got it, it's actually really simple. All you need to do is compare our press release to every article that's ever been created in the history of the universe. And I'm like, you're on drugs. Like, there's what a fucking ridiculous thing to say to someone. He's like, oh no, actually, Google kind of already do it. So there's something called Radar, which is robots and developers and reporters, daytime reporters I should say. And what they're doing is they're using natural language processing and machine learning, taking data sets and making news for local press, all with robots. They're using something called cloud natural language in order to do that, and that's what I'm going to be talking to you today about in particular. The cool thing about cloud natural language is it extracts entities for you. Now, if you're not super technical on an entity, imagine if you've got a press release. It's just a bunch of topics inside the press release that we can pull out and kind of categorise. It also gives a salience score, which is essentially a ranking. So if I was doing a press release about Brighton SEO, the entities would be Brighton, ranking, SEO, ranking, would be Kelvin, ranking, and so on and so forth. So let's have a bit of an example here. Is anyone in the room with a beard that I can pick on? Any beards? The guy in like the fourth row who did Julie Magnificent, the bun and everything. What's your name with the beard? Name? Come on, dude, I'm just going to call you Pete the Pirate or something. I'm calling you Pete the Pirate. So, Pete the Pirate, at the back there, he would write about treasure, he'd write about wenches, he would write about beards, he would write about rum. Good, solid, pirate-based stuff. And he'd write a bunch of these different articles on these topics, but then the editor would come and say, well, actually, beards are really hot in the pirate community right now. Write more about beards. Beards. Any women with that hat on? No? What's your name? Jasmine. Jasmine the hat lady, she writes about hats, glasses, jobs, and pay. Then our editor comes and said, actually, talking about jobs is really hot right now, we need to write more about jobs. Jobs are jobs. So like her entities start changing more towards jobs. Any men over 50? No. Okay, we'll just call him Bald Bill. So Bald Bill writes about business, he writes about millennials and complains about them. He writes about jobs, and that's meant to say EDU education, not EDU erectile dysfunction, but he's over 50, so who knows. But then his editor comes and says, write more about business, so his entity becomes business, and so on and so forth for all of these people. What we can then do is we can start to stack these journalists up based on the major entities they talk about across every single article that they're writing about. So I can get an aggregated ranked score of the major entities they talk about, which is kind of cool. So, if I was to write a press release, let's say for example it was about this event, study reveals drinking at work events damages your job prospects. I imagine a lot of you probably had a couple of pints at lunch and you're about to go to the after party as well. This is a relatively apt thing for me to write about. If I was to run that through natural language processing, I'm going to get a bunch of different entities coming out. I'm going to get alcohol, I'm going to get rum, and then whiskey, potentially vomit. It's going to go all the way through to things like line manager. We're going to be looking at working from home and then potentially getting fired. So, if I was to compare that press release to all of those journalists, who's the best fit? Is it Pete the Pirate that talks about rum and whiskey? Well, technically it is, right? Because alcohol is quite big on that press release, but actually, the nuance of that press release is actually about work and alcohol. So although the old way of categorising and finding journalists, which is topically, would make that correct, that's a terrible pitch, because that's not Pete the Pirate's beat. Pete the Pirate talks about being a pirate. He just happens to mention rum and whiskey. The best person would actually be the person at the end, which I'll call Big Hair Betty for this one. The reason being, she talks about whiskey and rum and politics at work. So just because she's not directly involved with drinking in the workplace, when we take all of her different entities with all of her different rank scores, she's the one that comes out on top. Okay, that's fun. So we ran this through Google Sheets. We took journalists from The Guardian, and we took their top 50 articles and ran it through entity analysis and then took the aggregated score. I got kind of excited because we've got football and sport. I'm like, probably a football journalist. I got a little bit kind of annoyed, so I'm like, oh, it says like Midlands and stuff like that. So this is actually, the technology's probably just not there yet. But then we realised the journalist is actually a football writer who covers the Midlands, and I got really fucking excited, and I'm like, oh my god, this is actually a perfect viewpoint of what this person's writing about. So in terms of actually getting the entities for the journalist, that's easy. The hard bit is to do it with every single article that's ever been written. So we just tried it anyway, because what else are you going to do on your Friday off, right? So we tried to download 10 years of The Guardian. Now, I'm an SEO, so I started with Screaming Frog and tried to do custom extraction. We tried to use Python to pull it out, but it's proving to be very slow. Because The Guardian are absolutely lovely, they have an open API. You can download 10 years of The Guardian content completely for free, and it pipes out in beautiful structured data. So we literally downloaded 10 years of The Guardian in about a week. So that's kind of cool, right? You get news APIs to get all of this content out. So there must be more APIs for news. So I was looking at Daily Mail and The Sun and all that sort of stuff, and then I came across something called News API, and I imagine you know what News API does. It's an API for the news. News API is Google News' API, which gives me 30,000 publications globally. And this is what the output looks like. So I've pinged it and pulled down one of the examples, and it gives me the author, and it gives me the content. This is beautiful for me, because what I can then do is I can get author, imagine a spreadsheet, cell 1, author, cell 2, content. Then I'm running natural language processing, I'm getting the first keyword and its ranking, the second keyword and its ranking, third, fourth, fifth, and I can do that 50 times for one article. Next article, all the keywords and the ranking. I can do that for every single article that journalist has ever done. It's literally a push of a button. Then I can take an aggregated view of that and see the exact thing that guy's writing about. So, Jack, our data guy, is like, we could probably download all this stuff. I'm like, cool, just do it. It's like, cost you about £250,000 to do it. I'm like, we're doing well, we're not fucking well, so probably not. Anyway, we can do a kind of half version of this. And he's like, if we take the top 15 articles from every journalist that's in here, which is just over 250,000 journalists, we could probably do it for about 15 grand. I'm like, do that then. So he'd done it, and we've now got a database of just over 250,000 journalists with all of their entities and all of their ranking. Then I found out something called Event Registry does the same thing, and it costs $15 a month. That hurts. I looked into it. They don't allow you to get any entities out. It's not really used for journalists as such, but the raw data is kind of in there in some form or another, and it's considerably cheaper. So if you're in PR or you're looking to do any media analysis, I'd highly recommend having a look at Event Registry. It's very good. Alright, so a new problem. We've got all the journalists and all their entities, but I still have got a press release and I need to match it to all these guys. So how are we going to do it? Jack pipes up again. He's like, football manager. I'm like, you're definitely on drugs. Football manager, what are we talking about now? He's like, well, think about it. Like, they have these radar diagrams like this, right? And it's like their speed, their accuracy, their performance, and it kind of looks like that. And another person over here, that's essentially just the entities with their ranking. So entity 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we can put the press release on top of all of the journalists, and we can kind of match it like that. I'm like, okay, that sounds kind of cool. How's that going to look? We can use something called Elasticsearch. Now, Elasticsearch is just normal faceted search, but you can put a weighted ranking to an attribute. Now, in layman's terms, that means you can take a keyword and give it a ranking. We have a database full of keywords with rankings connected to journalists. So we can put that together really, really easily. I then asked them, alright man, can I get a front end on this thing so that my PR guys can actually use it instead of like having to Python into this thing all the time? He's like, yep, sure, leave it to me. Comes back a week later and he's put a picture of a cat on it and he called it Needle. I'm like, this guy is definitely high or something. Okay, what's the cat with the cape about, the little thing? And he's like, oh well, it's called Needle because finding a journalist, and I swear to God he said this to me, is like finding a needle in a haystack. And I'm just like, beautiful, beautiful, amazing. So this is not a public tool, we're not selling it, anything like that, but we do need help to train the machine learning inside of it. So if you want access to our database for free to run your own campaigns, all you need to do is answer a bunch of questions for me just so we can kind of make it a little bit better, just email me, ross@typingmedia.co.uk, and I'll give you access to it so you can run all your own campaigns. I'll also send you all the Google Sheets as well, like I talked about today. So hopefully that will help you kind of get into a place where you can save a bunch of time and match better with these journalists that you're pitching, and hopefully one day you can also get to a place where you can work a 4-day week. Thank you very much.